Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Horror Survival Guide. If you've watched the previous entries in this ongoing series, you'll know how to survive such diverse supernatural scenarios as trying to stay alive atop a frozen mountain with a bunch of evil spirits, finding yourself at the mercy of a murderous and nigh-on immortal family in the swamplands of Louisiana, being stuck on an island where you're constantly chased by carnivorous creatures from the Cretaceous period, venturing into space to discover the origins of humanity itself, and even existing as a child in a world where all of the adults have been transformed into murderous cannibalistic beasts by the corrupting influence of a mysterious Lovecraftian tower. However, despite covering all of these specific situations, we haven't yet looked at what you need to do to endure the two most commonly depicted apocalyptic scenarios, zombie mayhem and nuclear annihilation. Today we'll examine both, as I teach you how to survive the events portrayed in 2020's Resident Evil 3. Spoilers. So the first thing to know is that the basic premise of Resident Evil 3 is to run. Run everywhere as fast as you can and you might stand a chance, unlike nurses Ariana, Miranda and Dakota, who were feeling sluggish when zombies invaded Raccoon City General Hospital and are now feeling dead as a result. You see, running works for a number of reasons. Firstly, the zombies themselves. They are slow, you are not. Secondly, based upon what we've seen at the Raccoon City outbreak, there is a roughly 100% chance that you will be chased by something much bigger, faster and deadlier than your run-of-the-mill undead. And thirdly, it's generally a good idea to work on your cardio, because that way you'll not only have a hope of making it through to the other side of this outbreak / pandemic / apocalypse / whatever denomination of tragedy your situation might class as, but also you'll be healthy when you emerge on the other side, and therefore will have set yourself up nicely for if and when the world is back to normal. Not to mention that you may need the endorphins, because things are gonna get pretty bleak. So yeah, just keep running, and everything will turn out okay. Isn't that right, the guy from the Dead Island 2 trailer? See, everything is fine, and it stays fine. Don't watch the trailer, I'm telling you he lives. But where to run to? Preferably just away from all the chaos, especially if you're told to by someone such as Jill Valentine, who is clearly main character material, meaning that anyone who refuses to do what she says, or even just disagrees in general, is doomed to die a supposedly deserved death. So there's this old episode of Total Wipeout USA that I remember watching as a little kid where they're doing the sweeper challenge. You know, the one where you have to jump over the big red arm as it swings round in a circle. And there are two guys left and one of them is about to jump over it, but it's too high for him to make it. So the other guy shouts, "Go under it." And the man who's about to jump yells something like, "Don't tell me what to do," before jumping and just getting completely swatted into the water down below. And this is like the third video where I've tried to find that clip and not been able, so I've given up and now you're getting me telling you about it, but hopefully that description was a helpful indication of what not to do around folks like Jill Valentine. And what exactly do I mean by folks like her? Well, to find out, you simply have to take a look at the protagonist checklist, as, according to all known laws of narrative media, a hero is tough, attractive, covered in dirt, surrounded by chaos, somehow still alive, and constantly at odds with gruff-looking Eastern European mercenaries who have no regard for anyone but themselves and will therefore die a karma-riddled death later on in the story. Those who fulfill these requirements are your people. Do what they say, loyally and at all costs, and you're far more likely to live than, say, someone who just wants to ignore them and hide in a shipping container the entire time. Enter Dario Rosso, the utter moron, not to speak ill of the dead, who disagrees with Jill on the best way to survive and consequently hasn't been seen since 1998. Wonder what happened there? Now, that's not what happened to Jill's fellow S.T.A.R.S team member Brad Vickers, with whom she was surviving just fine, right up until he decided that zombies probably aren't all that harmful, and dived elbow first into a horde of the undead. Come on man, just hold the door.
Hold the door!
It's not that hard, I mean Jill barely even has to flex. And also there's a bunch of furniture that you could use to aid you in your attempts to do so. And also, you could literally just follow rule 1, as there's no reason whatsoever to hang back by the doors.
Get away with that door this instant!
See how Jill runs? You can do it too. The next person on my list of those to have died seems to have been Chad, whose body was discovered in a local substation by Jill Valentine after he had seemingly had an encounter with what is known as a a big bug. And if those big bugs are anything like the Cloverfield parasites that they so resemble, you best not be pouring any water on their wounds, or You know what? Better safe than sorry. So if you get bitten, you might as well just do one of those dehydration routines that fighters put themselves through in order to make weight. Also, it'd be a good idea to chow down on a green herb, because there's a decent chance that they just bathed a load of larvae into your stomach, and if you don't agitate those things real soon, well... Unfortunately, Resident Evil is not specific as to exactly which herb will help, so I'd recommend that you carry around a big bag full of every green herb that you can get your hands on. Worst case scenario, it saves your life. Best case, none of this happens and you'll just be the person who's known for lugging herbs around, which at least means that you'll smell nice and might get invited to a fair few picnics. Okay, look, anyone who found themselves working at Nest 2 or any other secret Umbrella facility, your death is on you. Not only because you knew what was happening way before everyone else, seeing that you were working at a shady corporation with secret military divisions who were testing the efficiency of their bioorganic weapons by kidnapping innocent people and forcing them to fight unnatural, incomprehensible monsters to the death and thinking, yeah, I'm okay with this. But also because you saw all that and decided to stick around rather than getting the fuck out of there. Add that to the fact that your work directly contributed to strengthening the monsters that ended up killing you, and it's frankly impressive that you didn't die much, much sooner. Anybody this idiotic should be celebrating the small miracle that they made it out of bed this morning without accidentally shooting themselves 17 times. Not to speak ill of the dead, or anything. Murphy Seeker. Look, all horror deaths are equally preventable, but some are a little less equally preventable. Regarding this guy, we don't know precisely how he picked up his injuries, but we do know that he has them, and is therefore something of a fish in a barrel for any asshole who might want to shoot him in the head.
No, wait, please!
As such, he should always be on the offensive, particularly with regards to people that he knew to be the kind of monster to execute a guy like him. And he presumably already knows more than Jill about Nikolai Zinoviev, a sergeant serving in the same deployment of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasures Service, and therefore should really understand that he's a complete monster. I mean, not to speak ill of the dead, but come on Murphy, get your head in the game, or someone might just put a bullet through it. Shortly after Jill and her pals board a train full of folk headed for a safer location, they discover that the protagonist has a powerful nemesis. How did I get this far throughout this video without mentioning that thing? Who has something of a fatal attraction for his appropriately named Valentine. Unfortunately for those on this bullet train to hell, and somewhat fortunately for the area's rabbit population, Nemesis's version of boiling bunnies is centered around torching trainfuls of Raccoon City citizens. My advice for those guys is to get yourself in the same carriage as Jill, who's pretty much guaranteed to survive at this point in the evening. You know who wouldn't be in her carriage? Dario Rosso, that's who. So, DBAD, don't be a Dario. AKA a dead loser. Not to speak it, you know what, I am speaking ill of him. In fact, I'm speaking a lot of ills about a lot of dead. Perhaps due to the illness that is reanimating all of the dead. Or perhaps because they're all doofuses. Doofi? Who really deserve what they got. Bit harsh, but that's survival for you. Oh hey, it's Brad, somehow still alive and back for more. Right, Brad? Brad? Oh, Brad.
Oh, Brad!
What are you doing? Well, I suppose Brad got what was coming to him. Don't eat people. No matter how tasty they look, that shit's not cool. And seriously, rule 1. Why is everyone ignoring rule 1? Dr. Nathaniel Bard was assassinated by Nikolai Zinoviev, that guy who should have died at the hands of Murphy Seeker. You see, Bard was busy developing a vaccine for the disease wreaking havoc upon the city, which I'm pretty sure is actually a cure, not a vaccine, seeing as it seems to work on people who are already infected. But let's not let my hazy memory of the story, nor my GCSE biology knowledge, get in the way of a good old plot device. I mean, to be honest, it's entirely possible that Umbrella's scientists are huffing enough glue to render horses extinct, and have therefore forgotten everything that they used to know about basic biology. These weirdos created giant Pac-Man fish in the city's sewers. I mean, what can we really expect from them at this point? Anyway, Nathaniel, I have to ask, why not try developing a vaccine for your bioweapon before an entire city has been infected and then destroyed, huh? Nobody's going to assassinate you if the vaccine already exists, you turnip. So why not do some good for the world prior to the signing of the death warrant? You might actually survive that way. Also, again, you're like the viral weapons project lead for a facility that tortures people to death for the sake of enhancing your bioorganic arsenal. What did you think was going to happen?
You freaking pricks! When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Someone who wouldn't have drunkenly stumbled into a situation where he's responsible for the deaths of roughly 100,000 people is Tyrell Patrick, who is a good example of somebody who is actually working to help the people of Raccoon City. Unfortunately, he's also a good example of somebody who is dead. And that's because of one key instance of stupidity that I would advise you all to avoid. You see, as Tyrell is accompanying Jill on her mission to do a science and save the city, he specifically says to her,
"I got your back."
meaning that she is trusting him to watch what's behind her as they move into the next room, where he immediately forgets what he's supposed to be doing and stares aimlessly in the same direction as her. He's punished straight away, as Nemesis emerges to swat him aside, an attack that he could easily have avoided were he facing in the right direction, especially as there's a corridor right next to him with a doorway that is too small for the game's main monster to fit through. Thanks to this moment of madness, he cannot escape Nemesis's killing blow, which impales a Tyrell who is presumably just realizing the cost of his mistake. As such, I can only recommend that you don't give yourself such a huge responsibility as watching someone's back in a life or death scenario before failing to fulfill that very responsibility like 5 seconds later. Stay alert, stay alive, folks. Nemesis, you weird invincible little dog man, you've already lost like 6 or 7 fights to Jill at this point, so you should at least have learned to leave with your life still intact. Instead, Nemesis continues to chase his Valentine with a dogged determination, and as such is put down in a grotesque act of violence by Jill, who is understandably a tad miffed at this whole game of cat and mouse, and blasts Nemesis until it explodes under the pressure of 10 bazillion volts. More or less. Here we see that the apocalypse is much like gambling, in that you've got to know to quit while you're ahead. So stop chasing that rabbit and get yourself out of Raccoon City, because things are about to go boom. That's right, it's time to drop everything and escape, as soon as feasibly possible. Nikolai Zinoviev, murderous mercenary and general annoyance, has somehow survived up until now, but suffers at the hands of his own dickheadishness. I don't know why that got censored, it was doofheadishness. Because having booked a ticket on the last chopper out of Saigon, Nikolai swiftly unbooks said ticket by being a complete moron, winding up the usually kind-hearted Jill to the point where she shoots him in the shoulder and decides to leave him for dead. Now, this is shown to be a problem of attitude, as whereby Jill has demonstrated that she can achieve whatever she wants through the power of believing in herself and also having a friend called Carlos, Nikolai believes only in money and also not having a friend called Carlos. Case in point, Jill vinces the invincible Nemesis, creates a vaccine at unprecedented speeds with little to no training, and escapes Raccoon City with her life, and her friend Carlos. Nikolai's attitude, however, is one of don't care, which results in him dying, penniless and alone, in a nuclear explosion that he caused just moments after being beaten up by Carlos and shot by Jill for good measure. What this tells us is that if we believe in ourselves, and in Carlos, we can achieve anything that we put our minds to, and therefore, by embracing the Church of Carlosology, we can give ourselves the best possible chance of surviving the events of Resident Evil 3. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's horror survival guide, and as per usual, I hope that you took 0 actual lessons from it for the sake of everyone involved. If you came here to learn something, then there is one thing that I can teach you, which is to go and check out some of the videos of Lord of the RPG, whose channel is linked in the description for this video. Admittedly, he gave me a shout out in a recent video, but I wouldn't be returning the favour if I didn't love the style of the videos and the ideas that he has. I subscribed on the day that I'm recording this, and he's already convinced me to have another go at Dead Rising, as well as to try out games like Gloomwood and the Destroy All Humans reboot. So yeah, if you want a fresh perspective on a whole bunch of games, please do give that channel a try. Anyway, thanks to everyone who stuck around. I hope you have a happy Halloween, and I will see you next time.